Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Man, it feels like it's been forever since I've streamed Thursday. What was it? Thursday after the game, took some time off. And now I've got 3 shows in 2 days, and I'm going to the Dominican Republic on Wednesday. So I'm going to be gone for like a week leading up to Christmas. I figured this is probably the best time to do a call in show because we've all come to grips that the season is over at this point. And now the whole attention is turned to should they pay Brock Purdy or should they not? And you guys know my opinion, but I want to know your opinion. Should they or should they not? Got a couple people already waiting backstage. So, what we're going to do is we're going to hit this intro and then we are going to break it all down next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's open mic night, which means it's your night to show up and show out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Max. We're going to go to Chris. And we're going to go to Jeremy. Ooh, is Chris getting pulled over? Are you getting pulled over, Chris? I think Chris getting pulled over. Oh, no. Maybe he's paying a toll. Looked like he was getting pulled over. That's crazy. All right, we're gonna go to Max, Chris, and then Jeremy. Here we go. Max, you ready? It looks like you're on mute. There we go. All right, perfect.
What's up, Jesse?
Hey, how you doing, Max? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So, all right, I'll get right into it. So, I don't think the 49ers should, pay Brock Purdy, 60 million. I think, in my opinion, what they should do is play out the year and see what happens after next year to then make a decision. Because, I just think my honest thought on Brock Purdy is I feel like 2022 and 2023, he had all the talent in the world on offense and he played well. But then this year, when the talent is average, he's average or he's mediocre. So I don't think you can justify paying him 60 million, especially since if you pay him 60 million, the team you have this year, it's probably going to be the team you'll have for the next 5 to 10 years, or the next 5 years with Purdy. So that's kind of my take, honestly.
Yeah, man. I think what's crazy is I feel like I feel like last year when I had these conversations about Purdy, nobody everybody's ears were turned off, which I understand it. He was playing good football on the surface, and people view the position differently. But right now, I've just felt this major shift in the fan base where it's like, man, everybody agrees with me. I'm like, man, I almost want to make a counterpoint and say that they should pay him just so I'm on the other side of this thing because I feel this feels a little weird. The whole fan base was against me for a whole year and a half, and now all of a sudden everybody's on my side. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. That is the right move. Now, I don't think they're necessarily going to do that, but I want to throw this out real quick too. So we saw that Tom Pelissero came out, talked about, if they want to give Brock record-setting money, then they'll be able to get the deal done early, what have you. Well, then Greg Papa went on the radio and said, well, Purdy's deal is not going to be 50 million plus, but they'll find a happy medium. So now you've already got the 49ers coming out and negotiating through the media and saying, we ain't giving you record-setting contracts, so don't be ready for that. And then there was a NFL executive that talked to Mike Sando of The Athletic and said that Purdy lost himself a lot of money because of that game on Thursday night. So the 49ers have now come out and they've countered with, hey, we're not going to give that much money. So we'll see how this thing plays out. Clearly, his agent wants all the money in the world, and then the 49ers are not necessarily willing to give that. And we're already starting to see a little bit of a standoff in the media. I find it really interesting.
Yeah, I think, so if, the Rams game, kind of had them change their minds. Are these next 3 games? The season's over. So are the next 3 games, with Purdy even important? Because here are the teams you'll play, the defenses you'll play. He'll play a mediocre Dolphins defense, a banged up Lions defense, and a bad Cardinals defense. So even if he plays well all three of those games, I don't think it's going to prove much.
Yeah, well, and my point is, it's not even necessarily about like the defense they're going to play, but to me, these 3 games are garbage time. This is like the guy who didn't play well all game, and then all of a sudden, he gets the ball with 2 minutes left, down 3 scores, and the defense is in prevent, and he's just racking up a bunch of yards, throws a late touchdown, and makes the box score look better. That's what these 3 games are to me. The 49ers have nothing to play for. I could give a rip what Brock Purdy does over these 3 games. Me personally, what I care about is what's happening maybe with some of the young players. Are they getting some burn? How do they look? But as far as like the veterans on this team, your season's set in stone. You are what you are this season to me. There's nothing that's going to change my mind and how this thing goes. Now, I do think there are some people that will be like, oh, see, Brock Purdy came out and did X, Y, Z. It's like, who cares? This is essentially garbage time for 3 straight games. It means nothing to me. Literally nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. So I'll kind of I'm about to go now, but I'll kind of just say this. I think they are probably they're gonna pay him, but not exactly 60 million. So I guess I'll just throw out one more question. If this becomes a standoff like the Ayuk situation, could you see the 49ers trading Purdy?
I think you got to have a willing suitor. I got to know, like, if the standoff is, first of all, I don't think there's going to be a standoff. But if the standoff is, hey, I want 60 and you guys aren't willing to go above 50, name the team that's going to give a first round pick or even a second round pick and pay him $60 million. I don't think that team exists. So to me, he has no leverage for 60 if the 49ers don't want to go there. I don't believe there's a team in the league that will pay that. I really don't.
No, that's fair. I mean, I was thinking, well, maybe could the Raiders get fooled and trade for him, but then I realized, Tom Brady he's kind of getting involved with the decision making, and he was critical of Purdy, so I don't think they would even do that. All right, thanks, Jesse.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Jesse. Okay, thanks, Jesse.
Talk to you.
Take care.
Bye. That was a good first call. Good first call. I appreciate the perspective. I want to hear from the people that think they should pay him and give him whatever the hell he wants. I see those people in the chat. I want to know what their leg to stand on is, because that's what I really don't understand. There's a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people seem to be swaying towards my side of things, where it's like, absolutely cannot pay this man whatever he wants. Now, I think a lot of people think he's going to get paid. A lot of people are willing to pay him. Like, I'm willing to pay him, but it's more like a 3-year deal, 120 million, something like that. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. But for those that are like, hey, he deserves to set the market, and I see these people, I want to hear from those people. So hopefully there's at least one of those backstage. Maybe not. We'll see. Anyways, we're going to go to Chris Tellerico here. What's up, Chris?
What's up, man? It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Absolutely, man.
I haven't been able, my work schedule changed, so I haven't been able to catch you or Grant live in like forever. But I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to say you should pay him.
All right. Well, fair enough.
On this side. It's weird being on this side. It's like, man, people agree with me about Kyle now, and people agree with me on Purdy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem. What are they going to pay him with? They don't have any money left. I know they restructured some deals and whatnot, but they can't enter next season with the team as it is now. So aside from the free agents, they have to pay like Huff and Ward. And isn't Greenlaw another free agent?
Yeah, I mean, he is.
I'm guessing they'll let Ward walk. You can't. Safeties are hard to find. I would let Dre walk personally, because the Niners can seem to find linebackers anywhere and keep Ward, but Ward's pushing. He's getting up there, isn't he?
Ward, did you say Ward? Sorry.
Yeah, Ward. Isn't Ward
one Ward of the 20? Yeah, I think he's 29, something like that.
Yeah,
28, 29. Yeah,
you can't pay a 29-year-old corner, but they can't pay him. they don't have anything to pay him with and still retain the best of their free agents. It's imperative that they come back with Huff and probably Greenlaw. But I don't know. Their problem isn't even the quarterback position. We all know what the problem is, and they aren't going to do what they need to do. And it's almost a 2-year situation too, because you got to get rid of the GM and you got to get rid of the coach. And you can't trust Lynch to find a new coach, and you can't trust Lynch to offload Shanahan to somebody else because he's just not very good at it. I mean, you've got to go after. I mean, I would think that you got to go after Baltimore or KC's like number 2 GM because they always draft well. But I mean, they're not going to do it. So they are
No.
going to pay Purdy. You know, they're going to pay him. They should make him play out the rest of his contract. Bring in that vet. You spend one of those comp picks on a rookie quarterback that Shanny won't play anyway because he doesn't play rookies. And
Yeah.
I mean, he can get the best tackle coming out of college, you know, the blue chip 5-star recruit, and still start Colt McKivitz over the guy. And,
Yeah,
you know,
you're right about that.
Instead of
Like
drafting
what like Chris, let me ask you this. Do you think we would even know who Dominic Mooney was if Burford and Feliciano hadn't gotten hurt? Like, would
No.
we even? Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, we wouldn't. We would not, we wouldn't know. And the guy would be, you know, 4th year on the team and, you know, getting offloaded for a 6th round pick, you know, and starting somewhere else. It's insane. But they need to bring in that 3rd round quarterback. They need to bring in, you know, do the Kirk Cousins thing, bring in the 3rd round quarterback, see what happens. They won't because it's this team and they're going to pay Purdy. If they're going to pay him, they should give him that Danny Dimes 3-year, you know, 40 mil a year, 30 mil a year deal, but they won't. This team's track record is not playing hardball with players.
Yeah, I mean they do. They fake play hardball, but then they acquiesce, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're still paying Debo, and they're going to be paying Bosa, and they're going to be paying Trent Williams, and they're going to be paying, you know, they've got all these guys that if they just let Brock play out this last year, you know, Trent's going to retire, Kittle's getting there, Debo won't be on the team. You know, you've got all these guys, and you'll have a bunch of cap space free to then sign him to the max deal if he's worth it. But we know they're not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's going to be I agree. They're not going to. But I will say this, I do find a little bit I do find it interesting that they're already negotiating through the media with Greg Papa coming out and saying, "Hey, we're, you know, he's not going to make 50 million plus." Is that their way of like, okay, so
Well,
you know.
yeah, I mean, Brock took the first shot, which is ballsy for him. You know,
Mhm.
the guy can't throw a ball if it's got a little bit of sweat on it, but he can, you know, take a shot at the 49ers GM and head coach, you know, through the media, which is good. It's smart, and he should get everything he thinks he's worth, but he's just not worth it for this team. And there will be a suitor, you know, there will be. You know, you got Cleveland, you got Oakland. I'm not Oakland. You got the Raiders. You've got the Jets. You've got teams that are gonna need a quarterback, and well,
They'll need a quarterback. I don't think anybody's paying that kind of money for him, though. I genuinely do not. Cleveland, first of all, Cleveland has a quarterback that is still guaranteed over 200 million, so they can't afford him. To the last caller's point, the Raiders now have Tom Brady in there. He's called multiple pretty games. He ain't paying that guy $60 million.
No,
like,
he's not.
you know what I mean? So it's like, and then there's guys that are going to be drafted and what have you. I'm not saying there aren't teams that wouldn't like Purdy or trade for Purdy, but it's the fact that you have to pay him. If the hang up truly is, hey, I want 60 and the team's not willing to go above 50, there is not a team in the league that is going to pay him 60. And regardless of what we think of Shanahan, the rest of the league views Shanahan as like an elite play caller, QB whisperer. And they're like, if you couldn't figure it out and you don't want to pay him, do I think my head coach, who's not an offensive guy or as good as you, is going to make it work? Absolutely not, dude. There's no way.
And that's why they need to get rid of Shanny now while his market is still somewhat viable. You can trade. I wouldn't fire him, but I would trade Shanny in a second if I could. But I
Yeah.
don't think Lynch is the guy to negotiate that deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. Chris, thanks for calling in, bud. It was good
Yep.
hearing from you.
Nice
Appreciate
talking
you.
to you. Sorry for taking up too much time.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. We'll talk later.
All
Have a
right,
good one.
later. Bye.
Later. Okay. A few comments here, and then we'll get back to it. We'll go back to Jeremy. Danny, y'all. He hates it when I do this. Again, if you want to crown Purdy's ass, crown him. But he is who I knew he was, and y'all keep letting him off the hook. That's a great callback by you. Jared, a couple comments from Jared I want to address, and then Steve-O's got one as well. Jared says he didn't start Pooney, and when he's talking about Shanahan, but you have to remember what happened to let Pooney even get the burn. Burford had to get injured, and so did Feliciano. And that's how they even got a look at Pooney. And then by the time that Burford came back, he still had a broken hand and was casted up towards the tail end of the offseason. And Pooney had already been conditioned for that starting job, and then Feliciano never made it back. So, yeah, he did start him, but at the same time, like he was forced to as well. So, and then he says nobody is saying he's getting 60. His agent just came out basically and said it through the media. So there you go. And I will also say this, and I won't tell you who the message was to, but it is somebody that you all know. They made a post on Twitter, and his agent messaged him and said there is no way. So the suggestion was pay him like Baker, and his agent literally DM'd him and said, we are not taking anything close to the Baker deal. That is not possible. So his agent is already like, no, we want to set the market. So we'll see. I mean, that's the conversation. And how is Cleveland getting out of this contract? How are they getting out of the contract? He's going to be there next year unless they decide to go the Denver route. But even then, it's like, okay, so you're going to take a cap hit of $100 million and then pay somebody else $60 million? No, they're not getting out of that contract. All right, we're going to Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy?
What up, dog? Rest in
What
peace,
up? What
Michael
up?
Jackson. Let's do you remember the time?
When we used to be good.
Yeah. Hey, so to all the faithful out there, sorry y'all, it's been a horrible year for us, but let me remind y'all, we've been here before. And now let's get straight to it. About Brock Purdy, yeah, I'm all right with giving him the Brandon Ayuk deal. 35 sounds good to me. A year, 35 million.
That would
Uh,
be great. I would
right.
be all for it.
Absolutely. You're not a Joe Burrow. You're not, no. You pay Joe Burrows of the world $60 million a year. You don't pay, I'm sorry, whoever his agent is, hey man, if you can find it, go get it. But more importantly, what I'd like to talk about, I've been talking about this for the last 4 years. I've been talking about this when y'all used to give me hell about defending Mr. Lord Voldemort, he who must not be named, Jimmy G. When I stood on all 10 and I defended my
Uh-huh.
quarterback that took us from a shitty, losing every year team, and I defended what I loved, and y'all said, no, no, no. And I said it then, and you correct me when I'm lying. It ain't the quarterback, it is the coach.
Mm.
It was Kyle then. It was Kyle 4 years ago. It was Kyle 3 years ago. It was Kyle 2 years ago. And it was definitely Kyle last year. You went to 2 Super Bowls. You lost both of them the same fashion. You lost both of them to the same, listen, to the same team. It's, oh, he did it when he was, I don't care what he did in Atlanta. As a 49er fan, you came here with tyrant behavior, dictating behavior, and you're saying it's my system and you need to play my system. You need to do, okay. I knew we were fucked. This is why you haven't been seeing me. I turned off my TV when I saw him in Florida with, what are they calling Debo? The Zesty Blade. They're calling him the Zesty Blade, bro. I knew it was a problem when he's at a all-white party with a pimp cane
Mm.
with Debo Samuels. Did you remember that when Kyle Shanahan was at
Yeah,
some
him,
party?
Ayuk. Yeah.
Right? I don't know what was going on, but all of that like Southern California activity going on with this team, that diva stuff, that Hollywood, and that's not that ain't the culture, bro. That wasn't how we acted when we were at the stick. I don't know if it's some like Silicon Valley stuff. Soft, whatever. I think they're in their like soft girl era down there at at Levi Stadium. I don't know what they're on, but all this weird stuff. Debo, it's time for him to go. No question. It's time for him to go. It's time for all of this whatever this linebacker that's acting a fool. I know it's like the big talk of the town right now. No, for us, Kyle Shanahan is what we need to be talking about. I'm sick of it. We ain't got Jimmy to blame. We ain't got Brock Purdy to blame. I'm tired of talking about everything that doesn't need to be talked about. Right now, we need to talk about Mr. Kyle Shanahan. What are we gonna do? You and your antics. We can't have a defensive coordinator that is smarter than you because then you're gonna give him hell. Then there's discrepancies, and here comes the blame game. We're done. And to all of that, you say what?
I mean, you have been saying it forever. I think two things can be true. I really do. I mean, I remember when I wrote an article 2021, so right as they had drafted Trey, and I said that at that time I felt like Kyle was probably, if he had a chance at winning a Super Bowl, it likely wouldn't be with the 49ers. And I forget what the context
You
was,
did
but
say
that
that.
was
I
the
remember
premise of
that.
the article.
Yep.
So I think that that can be true, and I also think that they haven't had a franchise quarterback. Like both of those things can be true, but the reason, but and to your point, everything always flows back to Kyle Shanahan. They don't have a franchise quarterback because Kyle hasn't gone and after the franchise quarterback. He
Right.
tried. I'm not saying it was for a lack of trying. He did try with Jimmy. He did try with Trey. He did try with Brock. And the best of the three has been Brock, but that doesn't mean he's a franchise quarterback. And so when you don't have a franchise quarterback and then you've got to pay them like a franchise quarterback, you're out. That's it. It's over. And so that's why they have to be super diligent right here. And if they are willing to just shell all the money in the world over, it's like, well, then you're right. I mean, we can just write off the chances of Kyle winning a Super Bowl here because if he's tied at the hip with Brock and he, much like McDaniel with the Dolphins, who was an advocate for paying Tua, that guy's not it. So you're tied to the hip with him. If he's not good, you advocated for it. So that means you're also not good. Both
Man.
things can be true.
Man. And I don't think not Debo, Brandon Ayuk, he advocate, right? He went and got Brandon Ayuk's money.
Yeah.
We saw, I mean, hey Jess, I think you and I both, by the way, I got my first kid on the way. You and
Hey,
I both,
congratulations, man.
thank you, brother. It's a boy. Um, I think you and I both can go out there and go drop balls. And I don't think
So
I'll
listen,
do it
I'm
for $1 million, bro.
too old for all that.
Right. But I'm just saying, I'll do it for $1 million. You ain't gotta pay me in the 30s. You know what I mean? Like
Jeremy's like,
what
I
is
got you
going on,
covered.
man? I'm a fan, bro. I am a fan. I'm not saying that I'm bigger than the team. What I'm saying is I care about the team.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're keeping people in order and we're holding people accountable, I think it starts at the top. And for your leader to not take accountability and just blame every year, dude, it's always everything but Kyle. I'm
Yeah.
done. Anyways, brother, I missed you. Sorry I ain't been around. It's all this is like it's like Hollywood to me, dude. All this is it's just weird, bro. This guy's he's
It's
more
crazy.
focused on his outfits than playing the game, bro. And
Yeah, T.O.
it
said that
hurts.
tongue in cheek, but I don't think it was really tongue in cheek, man. I really think he meant that. Jeremy, good hearing from you, brother. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
sir.
calling in, and
Always.
congratulations on the kiddo, man.
Thank you. Later,
All right,
dog.
bro. Later. Hey, there we go. There we go. All right. Antonio, I'm going to get to you. Antonio, Jay, Nick, Korean 49er, Alan, and Mr. Let's see here. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. Methodical says, is Caleb Williams elite? Look at what happens when your line and your coach are trash. Purdy 2.0. I don't know. I mean, I never. First of all, no rookie's elite. Like, you got to stack years in this league. You don't come in and be elite. I never thought Caleb Williams was elite. A lot of people said he was a can't miss prospect. I never thought that. Yeah, I can see it. Like, I'm starting to see it a little bit. I thought early on, like, his athleticism and none of that was translating. As the weeks have gone along, I do think they are starting to translate. But Chicago's a dumpster fire. We'll see how his career plays out. But I don't know. I never thought he was a can't miss prospect personally. I think I know where you're going with that, but at the same time, like, I don't know that that was the best example that you could have used. So here we go. We're gonna go to Antonio here. What's up, Antonio?
Hey Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I mean, this is the season I expected. Since that Super Bowl loss, it's been kind of rough because that was their winner, and I think you remember we talked about it, that it was too good to be true. Everything
Yeah.
was line up, injuries, schedule, rest. Everything was very good. I think even though Purdy didn't play bad in the Super Bowl, I think there were a lot of misplays of him. But I think we have to give him grace at a certain point, because even though it's been shaky, because we have to consider that, right? That the team overall hasn't been good. The defense, the O line hasn't been that bad, but it's not been great. The weapons haven't been great except for Kittle, maybe Jennings, and of course all the off field situations with the Trent Williams situation, the Ward situation, the Ricky Purcell situation. It's Of course it's a lot to overcome. However, that's why you pay a quarterback $16 million, right? Because
Yep.
that type of quarterback can overcame whatever, all that kind of situation. I think a lot of fans are kind of bothered, and I'm laughing at this point because it was not surprising that Purdy and his agents want to reset the market, because that's what every player has on his mind, right? Everybody wants to have the big bucks, and it's kind of hilarious that everybody's acting surprised, like, what? Purdy, that such a nice guy, wants a lot of money? Well, of course,
I knew this was gonna happen. We
right?
knew this was gonna happen. There was a segment of the fan base like, oh no, he's gonna. I remember somebody this year was like, mark my words, he's not taking a dime over 35. I'm like, you are high. What are you talking about? There's no chance that's happening.
Especially in California where the taxes are very high, right? So
Yeah.
it's why should I have a discount? Especially because he has played basically free for the 49ers. Like,
For sure.
it's gonna be tough because there's 2 points, right? He has been good, but he hasn't been great, and it's tough because he has been good for the organization, and he has the leadership skills. I do believe he has leadership skills. He's a nice guy. I mean, he actually cares about the team, of course, but
Yes.
of course he also needs his personal aspirations. So you can be the 49ers and be like, all right, I'm gonna pay you 60 million for, I don't know, 2 years maybe, just to like a thank you for all the things you've done. But the 49ers have a special opportunity to actually reset the market in the way that you don't have to pay every damn quarterback a lot of money. I mean, the situation with Tua, the situation with Trevor Lawrence, the situation with, of course, Deshaun Watson, there's a lot of evidence that you don't have to pay that much money to every quarterback. I mean, it's unnecessary. So I think the 49ers have the leverage. And if we are talking about a rebuild year that you actually called on, that this year should be the rebuild year, but now they're a year late. It can begin with this. It can be a starting point that, okay, we have to restart. And the way we're going to restart is not paying Brock Purdy the $16 million. They don't have to. I mean, if Purdy wants to have his chances of the trade market, I don't think he's going to have a very good chance. Good luck. And if he finds a team, it's probably going to be a shitty organization that doesn't know doesn't know football and just want to give a lot of money to just the name Purdy, and they're gonna find out. I mean, there's a lot of organizations and a lot of bad decisions in a lot of teams that just regret paying a lot of money to a player who it's not worth it. I love Purdy. I wish him he was good, but he's not great. I mean, you can see it's unbelievable how Josh Allen in the last 3 weeks has scored 14 TDs, more than 1,000 yards, and no interceptions. And that guy is gonna be winning less money than Purdy. It's just it doesn't make sense. And I hope people like stat sheets. I don't want to say his name, but I don't know how can you defend at this point Purdy stats. It's not been a good year, and I have to argue he maybe not be as good or better than Jimmy G. Jimmy G did have some comeback wins. Jimmy G did pull off a victory drive against the Rams a couple of years ago. Purdy hasn't done that, and it hurts me because the one playoff win that everybody wants to talk about, it's the Lions, but that was a lucky shot and a great catch by Ayuk, and people just tend to forget that, and I don't agree with it, and it hurts me because we are in a tough spot where there's no QBs. We have to make a decision about our veterans, and our veterans are aging. Although I don't like the argument that there's no QBs this year. Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May has been pretty good, pretty decent. So the argument that there's no QBs on the draft, I don't actually buy it, because even though the draft, of course, the draft capital of if you go to the first round, second round, or third round, it has a lot of value. You have to play first in this league because Caleb Williams hasn't played good. I'm not saying that he's not going to be elite or nothing, but we cannot pretend that there's no option. Even it's the same with Kyle Shanahan. There's gotta be some options, because the getting stuck with Kyle and Brock Purdy, it's not the solution. And every team in the NFC now it's actually very good. I mean, Green Bay, Seahawks, Rams are getting good. Who else? Vikings. Lions are going to be tough next year because they're going to lose Ben Johnson and all the injuries. But impressive year from the Lions. And that's all
and by the way, I'm not so sure they're going to lose Ben Johnson. I really don't. I mean, he's super picky about where he wants to go. He's made that very clear. I'm not so positive they're going to lose him. I think that we all assume it, but I think we probably assumed it last year too. We were shocked when he came back. And so, you know, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year with everything they're probably going through with those injuries. I mean, at some point, 30 plus players out, it becomes too much. And so, you know, they're going to fall short. And then what happens with him? I think there's a real chance that Ben Johnson comes back. I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't like bet my house on it, but
I mean,
I bet you there's like a 40% chance I'll say that he comes back. I think it's more than people think.
I'll give you this. You've been dead right all this year. So
well, I have some misses too. Let's not get these guys out here and be like, you like Trey Lance, guy. You like Trey Lance, this guy.
It's been good, Jesse. Thank you,
bro. I appreciate it. Later. That was a good call, man. It was based, as Harris says, man. It was based. For sure. Listen, but this is where I get frustrated when we talk about injuries, because we only do this one way. We don't do it. We don't do this with other teams. We don't talk about it with other teams. We don't talk about it with other quarterbacks or other coaches. We don't give them grace. I mean, well, let's just talk about the games that the 49ers have played this year. Week 3, the Rams beat us without Puka, Kupp, and 3 starting offensive linemen. Week 4 against the Patriots, they were missing 3 starting offensive linemen. And they already weren't as talented as the 49ers, let's be clear. The Cardinals were without 2 starting offensive linemen and their nickel corner. Again, they're already at a deficit of their starting point because their roster's not as good. But they beat us. The Seahawks, the first game around, were without 2 people on the defensive line, their starting right tackle, and one of their starting corners. We didn't talk about that. The Chiefs beat us without Rice, Brown, Pacheco, and then lost Watson, their starting corner, in that same game. The Cowboys were without Parsons, Bland, Lawrence, and Cooks. The Bucks were without Evans, Godwin, and they lost Tristan Wirfs in that game. Like, we've been playing and beating teams that have also been injured and lost to teams that had serious injuries themselves. So, yes, I understand the 49ers were injured, but this is my biggest concern. It's not what you think, Jared, or the fan base thinks, because that is the natural crutch, is to be like, let's misremember how the whole season actually played out up until the point where the injuries got insurmountable, because they do. At a certain point, it becomes insurmountable. And I believe over the last couple weeks, we can maybe make that argument. I don't know. Against the Rams, I would say no, because they were getting a lot of people back. But up to that point, against Green Bay, against Buffalo, you can make that argument. The tail end of the Seattle game, even. But we're misremembering that they started out 4-4 on the easy part of the schedule. And they were also losing to teams with serious injuries themselves and beating teams with serious injuries themselves. Then they had the tragedy happen within the locker room to two different players. Then the injuries got worse and worse and worse before they got better again with the season on the line. My concern is that the team looks at it the way that you do and some of the fans do, which means they're not going to address any of the real problems on this team. They're going to try to do this BS where they run it back essentially again. And this team, it's over. They're already one of the oldest teams in the league. You don't get older and all of a sudden get healthier. Like, that would be asinine to think that. Like, do you think that coming off of a year with all these injuries and then adding a year of age to these players is like, they'll have better luck next year? No, they're not going to. These guys have miles and miles and miles on their body. They're aging. This is what happens when you hang on too long. This is what happens when you're one of the older teams in the league. It's not as if we didn't see a lot of this coming. Trent Williams misses time every year. No shock that he's out at 36 years old. CMC, I talked about it all offseason. 28 years old is when a lot of running backs fall off. And he's coming off of a year that every single game we would talk about, stop running him so much. You're going to shorten his career. Stop doing this. They didn't, and no surprise that he's hurt. So are we shocked that these guys are hurt, some of them? I mean, certainly, yeah, you can chalk some of it to bad luck. Hargrave's old. Are we shocked that he's hurt? Like, you can't bring back these older players and then expect that they're going to stay healthy. At some point, like, it falls on them too. All right, we're going to go to Jay. What's up, Jay?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, what's up, Jesse? How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Cool. I'm doing good, man. A little sick, so I'm gonna keep it a little short. Do I think they're gonna pay Brock Purdy $60 million? Yes. Do I think they should? No. And the reason why is because I think he should be getting paid at least like Baker Mayfield money. And I know you said that the agent already declined it, saying that they're not looking for that. But it's just crazy to me. Like, you pay contracts for what they're gonna do, not what they've done. And in my opinion, and maybe your opinion, other people, Brock Purdy's only regressed. He's only gotten down, especially after the Baltimore game last year. What is he, like a game over 500 record? I don't know. It's something like that. But I just feel like Brock, he's cool. I think he's good. But even like Brady said, like, Brady thinks he's an average quarterback. And the fact that Purdy wants to get paid Mahomes money or like just that top quarterback money, it doesn't make sense to me, because there's other channels saying, oh yeah, well, we're dealing with injuries, dealing with receivers not getting separation. Look at Mahomes last year. He had the top receivers, no separation, couldn't catch the ball. They still went to the Super Bowl. He elevated his team. Have we seen Brock Purdy do that this year? No, I don't think so. And I was a big Trey Lance guy. Obviously, that didn't work out. But just like with Purdy, man, I just think it would be the Niners' downfall if we're going to pay him that much money.
Yeah, man. I think that I don't know. There's so many things that we can talk about. Like we can talk about how clearly the weather is an issue for them.
Right.
And
Sorry.
they're gonna have it's fine. They're gonna have bad weather games. Like that's just the NFL, especially as you get later in the year. Like as the games get most important, the chances of you playing in bad weather goes up. Like you're not
Exactly.
always going to be the number one seed. And even when they are, they still had to play in bad weather.
Right.
But if they have to travel to Philly or or what have you, it's like, or shoot, the Super Bowl ends up in New York again or something crazy.
Right.
And you're playing, you know what I mean? Like you're going to have a chance of playing the most important games of the season in bad weather. So check that off the box. So far, he's like 0 for 5. Right.
Yeah.
That's one reason not to pay him. Oh, let's talk about the injuries. A UCL injury, a shoulder injury. So you have been injured to your throwing arm multiple times. That would be another just standalone reasons. The weather's a standalone reason. The injury is a standalone reason. And then we haven't even gotten to the play, which has been mediocre at best this year. And it's like you've had one really good season, essentially, the end of 2022 into 2023 up till the Baltimore game. And then from that game forward through this season, you've had one really good season, one mediocre season. I haven't seen enough to know exactly what you are. Those are 3 separate reasons why you shouldn't pay him. And all 3 of them are right in front of you. And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
here we
exactly.
go.
And
You're
even
just going to
then,
overlook
bro,
all of it, huh?
right. Even then, if we were decided like, okay, the Niners are not going to pay him this year, we're going to let him play out 1 year, would there be a chance of him actually holding out? Do you think he would?
I don't think you would.
Yeah, I don't think so
don't.
either. Honestly, like,
And I think there's a solution too. And again, I don't think they're going to tap into any of these things. I agree with you. I think they're going to pay him. But the other solution is, hey, you've been underpaid for a long time. We get that. We also know that we're pushing the talks off for at least one more year, assuming we don't franchise tag you. That's a little unfair too. Let's give you a cool 30 million guaranteed for this upcoming year.
right.
That's a price that we feel good about. It's a hell of a lot more than the 1 million you were set to make. And at least it like gives you something as you're out there trying to play. And then that kind of rectifies the situation and puts a Band-Aid on it until the next offseason.
Yeah, exactly. And with the point you were saying about his injuries with his arm, I remember when he was looking to go to a college, he visited at Alabama, and Saban said he had like a average to below average arm. So with the injuries on top of that, it's just not looking that good for Brock in the future. I don't know. Like now I'm not wishing anything bad on my team. Obviously, I love the 49ers, but paying him that much money, we're only gonna lose more weapons. Teams getting older. It's just I don't know. I think it would be the 49ers downfall in a way. But man, that's all I got to say, bro. The first time calling, man. I've been a subscriber for years and been watching you since with Grant. So yeah, keep it up, bro.
I appreciate it and feel better, man. You said you were
sir.
sick, yeah?
Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Feel better, man.
All right. Thank you, man. Peace.
Yeah, later. All right, there we go. Kilo says, I know he's a better QB, but at this point, all of Nick Wright's Purdy and Dak comparisons aren't so far-fetched. After all, Brock is about to fleece the Niners and Dak fleece Dallas. Yes, possible. It is possible. Here's my question. You're right. We can't blame Brock for everything. But when can we blame him for anything? Anything. Like there's a big segment of this fan base that will literally at any turn, no matter what stat you show, no matter what you show on film, no matter what you talk about, there's always something or somebody that is to blame. So my question back is, I agree, we can't blame him for everything, but when can we blame him for anything? Let me know. Let me know when it's okay to blame him for anything, because to this point, there is certainly a segment that will not hear any blame tossed on his lap. None whatsoever. And by the way, the bad weather games were not just this year. We saw it in Cleveland last year. We saw it his first year in the playoffs against Seattle when, remember, he started out very, very slow that game. And the reason he started slow, now that we have context, is it was raining to start that game. And once the rain let up, he was good to go and played very, very well that game. So we've seen him not play well in bad weather prior to this year. Like, it is a thing at this point. It is truly a thing. So my question back is, when is it okay to put any blame on him? Because a lot of you feel like no blame is acceptable. Oh, he's taken a lot of sacks. Well, that's because he's got a bad offensive line. Yeah, but by every major statistical measure of offensive line, whether it's NFL.com or PFF or ESPN, who all measure offensive line differently, they all have the 49ers pass protection as top 12. And then when we watch on film, like, that actually correlates. But oh, no, it's him. Yeah, but PFF also has the stat of quarterback created sacks, and he leads the league at that. I don't know. It's the offensive line. Okay. Well, hey, he missed this throw to Ricky Pearsall, and then he threw an interception in the game. Yeah, but if Debo had caught it with 8 minutes left, they would have won that game. Okay, but that means that we can't talk about the other things, because all I've heard is receivers can't get separation, but when they do get separation, he still doesn't make the throw. But somehow that's somebody. You see what I'm saying? Like, this all season long, this is the way it's been. There's plenty on film. There's plenty statistically that is real. But every step of the way, you're met with pushback. Oh, no, that's Kyle. Oh, no, that's the receiver separation. Oh, no, that's the offensive line. Oh, no, the defense gave up the lead. Like, at what point does Brock deserve any blame? Is it going to take him making $60 million before you finally go, hold on a second? This dude isn't carrying the way 60 million should. Or are we going to go the Dolphins route, where that fan base has a segment that's still, to this day, 5 years into a career, that is very clearly not a good quarterback? And Tua, I mean, he's a starter. He's a good quarterback, but is not that guy. That there's a big segment of that fan base that still makes excuses for him. Game in and game out, it's always something. It's somebody but Tua. Is that where we're gonna be? We're gonna be not making the playoffs and not winning playoff games, and then it's always gonna be something? I don't know. Here we go. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. A little sick, so bear with me. But
everybody's sick, man.
no, literally, I got hit with this yesterday, and it's been destroying me. But anyways, so I got 4 things. One is, you just added one to my list. I think you have to start like blaming Brock for certain things, considering the fact that the writing's been on the wall. Like, we knew he's going to ask for like a big contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't going to be something small. I know a lot of us are kind of holding on to hope that he would take like the Baker Mayfield deal, but like, let's be honest, he wants more, and of course his agent's always going to push for that. So that's one thing. So I agree with you on that. We do got to start blaming him for a lot more things, considering like that's what we're looking forward to, is like, can we pay him 60 million and still be, or 50 million and still be like a Super Bowl contending team, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the real question.
Yeah.
Is, can you do that? Yeah,
exactly. Then another thing is I was very adamant with you on this. Like, you had the same kind of idea as me with the trade deadline. We should have been sellers. And the crazy thing is, I think Lynch knew that, and he, like, instead of doing nothing, or instead of buying or selling, he did like virtually nothing, because the guy that we ended up buying on, like, I don't think I've ever even seen him on the field. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like he just didn't do anything because he didn't want to upset the fan base, but the writing was on the wall that this was going to be a terrible season. Like, after we started 4-4, like, me and you both went to the Ram game. We watched that live, and I couldn't believe what I witnessed. Like, it just, like you said, the Rams had a bunch of injuries. Juwan Jennings had a legacy game. Bro showed up like Michael Jordan flu game, like he went ignorant. He had 176 receiving yards, something like that, and 3 touchdowns. Like we should have won that game, and I feel like the writing was on the wall at the trade deadline where they should have sold. They didn't, and now they're, you know, taking what they did. So that was the other thing. Then what I would like to see with Brock, it's my third point, is what do you think about this? They don't pay him now. They wait till next year. They see how their draft goes. They see if they have another good draft like they had this year, right? They see if they can find some gems, like they seem to always do, especially later in the rounds. And then they either decide next year if they want to trade him before the deadline or at the deadline, and then end up playing like, say, a rookie, like if they draft one this next year, or if they want to play Mordecai for the rest of the season, if they do end up trading him, and then they go into the draft hopefully with around a top 10. If that's the case, if they do trade him, I think it'll definitely be around a top 10 pick, because that would mean the season wouldn't be going great. And then they go and draft Aller from Penn State.
Well, yeah, because Aller, he's staying back. He's in a
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. But he's probably going to be the number 1 pick next year, I would imagine, unless he just totally screws it off.
It definitely could be. Yeah.
So that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I don't know. I just listen. I'm open to anything that is other than paying Brock
50, 60.
big time money for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I just think that ultimately they are going to pay him, but there is still a conversation to be had, because it's first of all, my opinion is going to be given regardless of what they're going to do. Like, my opinion is going to be given, and yours should be as well. But also, we do know that they're likely going to pay him, but we don't know the years and we don't know the amount. That's still a conversation to be had. You know what I mean? Like, there's still the guarantees. Exactly. I mean, there's so much that goes into this. So, you know, we'll see. I mean, when it all comes out, I'm going to be curious. And we're going to know what they think fully of Brock Purdy once he is paid, because we're going to be able to break down that contract and be like,
yeah,
they don't really believe in this guy. I know that on the surface it looks like it, but with that out at 2 years and the actual full guarantee doesn't kick in till year 4, like, we'll see about this. So I don't know.
Or they do the classic Niner thing and they pay him and then kick the can down the road 5 years somehow. Find a way.
Yeah. Well, they'll rework it 7 times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. My last point is what I want to see is, like, dude, I love Debo. I've had his jersey since his rookie year. Like, I love Debo. He's one of my favorite players to watch, especially his 2019 season. Like, it was special for sure. Like, he's had a couple special seasons, but get that man off the field. If you're thinking about paying, here's my take. If you're thinking about paying Brock anywhere near 50 to 60 million, get him off the field. Get Pearsall cowing. Kittle's still an absolute dog. If we don't get him another contract, I'm gonna be super upset. He's unreal. I love him. I think he's gonna play for a while still, even being just a blocker, if that's what it takes. He's one of the best tight end blockers we've ever seen. Right. So get Debo off the field. Keep Jennings. Obviously, they need to extend Jennings even more at this point. I love Jennings, but
I know, me too.
Get Pearsall, get cowing, and see what he can do with young receivers. Because if you're paying a man 60 million, you're gonna have young receivers. Like, you're gonna have to hit like Buffalo did with a Shakir. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to hit on young, cheap receivers through the draft. And if Purdy can't go out and take care of business with those young receivers, then what is the point of paying 50 to 60 if you see it already? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, is that this year we've seen what it could look like if you're not hitting in the draft and you are paying them that kind of money. But everybody's like, well, the year before supersedes this year because that's what we like. Like, it's easier to say he looked really good the year before, so let's just act like this year didn't happen. Let's act as if he's put together 7, 8 good years in the league and is having a down year. And it's like, how do we know it's a down year? How do we know that this isn't who? Like, we don't know. We have just as much data that says he's not good versus that he is good. So,
and
how
not
do you
only
know?
100%, and not only has it been a down year, but I feel like Juwan Jennings has boosted his stats like crazy this year. Like, Juwan, how open he gets, like, it seems like every third down he's going to Juwan. Like it seems like whenever they need a first down or need a catch, he's going to Juwan. Like it almost looks like he stares it down because he knows he's going to be there. So I don't know. I want Cowing to play. We said this when we talked before the Rams game. We both were like, we want to see Cowing. He was too productive in college not to be getting a chance. And I understand that Kyle doesn't play rookies. We've known this for years, but still, I mean, at some point, I mean, the season's over, so you might as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, Nick, have a good one,
All
man.
right,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
calling
Jesse.
in.
Appreciate you.
All right, bro. Later. T-Dub, I haven't scout. I have no idea what Alar looks like, or Aller, or however you say his name. I don't even know how to say his name. I haven't looked into him. I just watched him play against Oregon. There was some good, there was some bad. I think he's making the right decision going back to college, though. That I will say. I'm not really sure. Other than that, and then you said that I need to take a hiatus. Well, first of all, I'm going to the DR, so I'm going to be gone for a week. Looking forward to that. But that I just need to talk ball. Like, brother, anytime I do film breakdowns on this channel, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I also want to engage with the audience. I'm not just here on my soapbox, not having conversations back and forth. So when I just talk ball, but it's not the way that you or whoever wants to see, there's always going to be something that's going to be said. There's going to be disagreement, and that's sports. That's sports. And a lot of that disagreement is frequently around Brock Purdy. So it's just the way that it is, man. I don't know what to tell you. John says it's funny because Brock is getting paid by the Niners and this conversation is pointless. First of all, it's not hating. Again, this thought of you don't agree with my way, so you're hating. Like, wait, when did we get so fucking soft? I mean, let's just be real. Like, when did that happen? When did we can't have a conversation? Otherwise, oh man, you're hurting my feelings or you're hating. Like, when did that happen? I didn't sign up for that. It's not hating. There still is a conversation to be had because, like I said, we don't know the amount of years and we don't know how much the money is. So there's absolutely a conversation to be had. Yeah, I think we all pretty much agree that they're likely going to pay him. But at the same point, we're already seeing where his agent's coming out and says, we want this. And the 49ers are coming out through Papa and random people to Mike Sando saying, no, we're not willing to pay that. There is a small possibility here that they don't come to terms. Like, that's still, until the day he signs, there is that possibility. Now, I think that's very slim. I think that both sides are certainly going to do whatever they can to come to a deal very, very quickly. I don't think it's going to play out like an Ayuk or even a Bosa or a Trent. But somebody's going to have to acquiesce a little bit. Somebody's going to have to be okay not taking exactly what they want and giving and taking and playing the contract game. But even within that, we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know the years. We don't know the money. So, I mean, respectfully, if you don't want to hear the conversation, I'm not holding you hostage. I love the support. Come back when this contract's signed and we're talking something else. But this is going to dominate the news for a while. It just is. Dang Dang says, what do you do when he holds out? Who cares? Who gives a rip? They're not winning a Super Bowl next year anyways. And he can only hold it. First of all, he's not going to. I would be shocked if that's the route that he took. But who cares? Dave says, you know my thoughts, Jess. I've never been shy about voicing it. I've said fire Lyle for some version of it for 4 years now. Anyways, MRSA in my sinus and emergency surgery tomorrow. Oh, dude. What? Really? Prayers up to you, man. I hope you're able to get through that. Okay. That sounds awful, dude. NorCal Danny Muzzy says, I'm a farmer from Northern California. Josh Allen comes from farming family from Central California. So I'm a big fan of his. The thing is, do you try to draft the freak like him and Lamar types? Yeah, I mean, they tried. They definitely tried. They swung and missed. And those guys aren't growing on trees. They aren't. To me, like the the solution is somewhere in the middle. Nobody's saying to get rid of Brock. Like, again, we go to these extremes where it's like, okay, if you're saying not to pay him, then you're saying to get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it would be nice to see it for another year so you know exactly what he is. And if you're not going to go that route, then don't give him unlimited years and unlimited money, because what if? You know what I mean? So anyways, yeah, I think you're always searching. And also, if you replace Brock for a guy that is inexpensive, a fraction, or, you know, a couple $1,000,000, they don't have to be as good as Brock for you to compete. Jimmy wasn't as good as Brock, and they were able to compete with him. Why? Because the team around him was so damn good. So if you got somebody that's 85% as good as Brock Purdy and the team is stacked, that's better to me than stripping this team down and paying unlimited dollars to Brock Purdy, because you know that formula can win. We've seen it before. We don't know that this formula of paying non-elite quarterback elite money can win. We don't know that. Dave says, Jess, F these guys that can't converse with IQ. Yeah, whatever. I don't really care. Dave says, Brock has proven he's dog water and do 1.1 and done. Yeah, listen, I don't think he's dog water. Been dealing with a head sinus pain for 6 years. Damn. So you've been like through it. All right. You're used to this. Okay. Korean 49er, Allen, Deshaun, Frederick, Jason, and Trevor. What's up, Korean?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
How many years has it been?
You weren't first. You weren't first in line. This is so weird.
I didn't even know you were doing. I didn't know you were doing this until I looked later.
No, it's all good.
Gotta put the roof over my head somehow. So
yeah.
How many years has it been since the 49ers won a Super Bowl? Approaching 30, isn't it?
30, yeah, 30 years, yeah.
I mean, so right now we haven't had an elite quarterback since Steve Young, prior to, when he got concussed out. So right now, this team doesn't even have that. Brock can't help that he was drafted at the very last pick, and he's done some nice things. No one's going to say he hasn't done nice things, and I can't blame him for wanting to get the money. We all want to get the money when we can.
Yeah.
But he's a product of Kyle. He can't beat man coverage on a consistent basis, or hasn't shown that he can beat man coverage. Zone coverage, he could go up against that pretty well. But my first questions with him was when they had that game against Baltimore last year. It's like, you're making all these interceptions, and I'm trying to wonder about your decision making.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been my biggest thing with Brock. And again, you can go back to 2 years ago on this channel when he was drafted and when he started playing. I never once said arm talent was an issue. I said the reason I have him as a 3rd-round prospect and not higher is because he has some what the F moments, and he's not a freak athlete to where he can overcome those, where he throws late over the middle and his arm's going to be able to slice through and be able to make that throw. Like, he has to play on time and be accurate. And he was the first year, a little bit over a year to start his career. But now he is showing those what the F moments, and that is the biggest issue. That was my biggest issue with Jimmy as well. It never had to do with, yes, all the other things certainly factored in for sure, but it was his decision making. It was like, you got a gunslinger mindset, but your skill set is game manager. If you just manage the damn game, we're going to be better off. And that's where Brock's at. Like, you've got a game manager skill set, but now you're wanting to play gunslinger. It's like, you can't do that. You're not going to succeed long term.
Exactly. I mean, I started having more questions at the last Super Bowl when he still couldn't beat man coverage of the Chiefs. I mean, but to me, I would put the franchise tag on him after next season and do what the 49ers should have done with Jimmy. You can franchise him up to 2 times.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most popular thing to do, but it is part of the CBA. And if the players don't like that, then renegotiate the CBA. That's not the problem of the management taking advantage of it. So,
Yeah.
But a couple last questions for you, Jesse. Are we still going to have 39 free agents at the end of this season, or right around that number?
I think the number ended up settling around 30-ish.
Yeah, I thought it was around 35 last time I checked. I could be wrong, but I knew it was a big number. And were you at the last UFC event in your hometown over the weekend?
No, I wasn't. I decided not to go. Watched it from home though. It was, man, I actually wish I would have gone. It was a really, really good card. Really good card, actually.
Yeah, I thought Cub Swanson had the best fight of that night.
Oh, great performance. If I was him, I'd retire. Like that's that's the one you retire on right there.
Yeah, and that injury that eyelid injury to Colby Covington was pretty gruesome.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah. So, yeah, but to me, they should do what they should have done, as some other organizations most likely do. Just keep selecting a quarterback. Doesn't have to be a first rounder every year until you hit on one. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to have more chances at the wheel. I mean, we haven't found that franchise quarterback since Steve Young, and last time I checked, no one's going to give up that kind of talent without, if you want to get something, you have to give something. Sadly.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's, if you don't have one, you got to keep trying until you do. And I think that's the way that it should be. I think too many teams have settled over the last, forever, basically since the salary cap era. And we've seen that those teams have settled and they haven't won. It's like, just because these guys settled doesn't mean I have to. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, I'm going to watch the Bears Vikings game. What do you think of Kevin O'Connell as a head coach? I think he's already light years ahead of Kyle, because for whatever reason, he's taking Sam Darnold and making him look like Randall Cunningham that one season where he had, those three great receivers in the late 90s.
Man, O'Connell's a really, really good coach. I want to see him, make some noise a little bit in the playoffs. But the moment that got me was when they were playing the Colts and he pulled Anthony. It was right after Anthony Richardson had been benched, and he like sought out Anthony Richardson and like had a really good heart to heart with him. Now, listen, Anthony Richardson probably still isn't going to be good, but the point is that he saw a player in need and took that leadership moment, even though he's not his coach, to uplift him. And I thought that was really cool to see.
Yeah. To me, it'd be nice if the 49ers could have a weapon like Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison. That would be a beautiful thing to see, but
yeah,
it just is what it is. All right. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, bro. Have a good one.
Yep.
Later. Let's see. I think I got this one. Oh, I was saying I was a bigger fan of Brock at one time. I don't want to pay him more than 45. I see him regressing in too many excuses by content creators. I'm in the middle. Yeah, I think, what's interesting is I think there's a lot of people that were like heavy Brock people, or truly in the middle, that have really kind of come to my side, which is pretty interesting. But anyhow, all right, we're gonna go to Alan, Deshaun, Jason, and Trevor. What's up, Alan?
What's up, Jesse?
How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Yeah, we're. I know you've been addressing about this whole Brock, man. It's been frustrating. I've been in the same boat with this back and forth, bro.
Alan, it's really, really hard to hear you. Like, there's a lot of noise. I can barely hear what you're saying.
Oh, can you hit me back coming around so I can address it?
Yeah. Right. Jump out and then come back in. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, we'll go to Deshaun, Jason, and then Trevor. Deshaun's been waiting a while. I appreciate you, Deshaun. What's up, Deshaun?
Man, I'm about to quit on the team, man. You've been having me wait too long, man. I'm out of here. I'm taking my ball and I'm going.
He was like, I'm taking my ball and going home, man.
I feel it, man. Like shit.
That's funny.
Hey, man, I just popped in to say what's up, man. It's been a while since I talked to you, man. I know we're still having this Brock Purdy elite quarterback search. I don't know when we're gonna get the fact that, you know what, we can't play Brock this much money, man. We gonna sink the team as soon as he go. I don't blame him for trying to get money, but you know,
No, that's that, and yeah, I'm glad you said that, Deshaun, because that's exactly it. He should be trying to get every dime. That I agree
Mhm.
with.
But we did understand. I remember this one take that you had. This I'm gonna bring this.
Oh my gosh, he's cutting out too. No, no, he's been waiting so long. You guys don't understand. Like probably almost an hour. All right. I will bring you up first thing, Deshaun, but you froze out on me. So jump out, jump back in. He was about to bring up a take. It was probably a bad take. I'm curious to see what he was going to say. All right. We're going to go to Jason, and then hopefully Deshaun is able to make it back in. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Want to talk about Kyle for a second. I
Let's
think
do
this
it,
is
man.
the
Let's
best
talk about
time
it.
to. I think it's the best time now to get rid of him. The biggest thing is we're going to lose half our roster to free agency, or potentially. So if you have a coach that wants a new team, this is the time to build your team. You're not stuck with his old team. Half it's coming right away. Pick your people, pick your draft, pick the guys you want to stick around. If you want Mason, make him an offer. If you want some of the other guys, make them an offer. You build your team today instead of inheriting whatever's left of Kyle's team next year, the year after.
Mm-hmm.
We're not paying Brock yet, so that could potentially be a. Do you want a team next year with Kyle's team and a quarterback you're stuck with, or a team this year when you can pick your quarterback, pick your team, and kind of work around it?
Yeah, it's tough though. Because again, it all comes down to the ownership. You know what I mean? Like if Jed's dead set on paying Brock and he seems to like Brock a lot too, then how many candidates are you gonna eliminate because they may not want to go that route? You know what I mean? And then also it to me, it all comes back down to the optics, which is if you let go of Kyle a year after they make the Super Bowl, then maybe to new incoming head coaches, they look at that as erratic and unstable. Maybe they don't want to take that job either. You know what I mean?
I've been thinking that as well. We've given the guy not 8 years, 9 years. Like that's stability. A lot of teams aren't offering that kind of stability to say
And potentially 4 losing seasons after this year, depending on how they finish. Yeah.
And on top of that, you've got an owner he's not afraid to crack open the checkbook. If you come to him and say, "Hey, I got to have this player. He's going to make my team work," Jed's cracking open the checkbook.
Yeah.
There's a lot to draw a good coach in. Like you got an owner that's willing to help build the team. He's willing to let you make trades, trade draft picks, late season trades, and then like the roster turnover right now. Like it seems like now's the best time if you want to rebuild and bring somebody new. If not, you're bringing in Kyle next year. He's going to have his team built again. He's going to have Juszczyk on a 14-year contract and Debo signed through 2040. You're going to inherit all these old players that are friends of Kyle.
Debo signed through 2040. Jeez, bro. Oh man, that's funny. That is funny.
That's just what I'm worried about. Is if Kyle gets his hands on the team any longer, he's going to sign these guys long term, and we're just stuck with them. Like we have so much dead money in old players right now.
Yeah, man. It's it is a bit of a conundrum. I totally understand why people are on the fire Kyle thing. He's not my favorite head coach either, but
I don't want to fire him. I want to trade him.
Trade him. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's fine too. I mean, if you can get like a first round pick for him, that would be great. But
if nothing else,
that's the hard part. Yeah, go ahead.
Jed should be contacting any team that fires their coach and just saying like, "Hey, what's your offer on our guy?" And maybe it's just maybe somebody's offering a third round pick, and it's like, "No, we'll keep him." But if somebody's offering like if Chicago's get up 2-1s, it's something to consider about.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get 2-1s, I think that's a no brainer. But that's a no brainer for sure.
Chicago's got a quarterback. They don't need that top 10 pick. Like, that's very enticing. Get a new coach in here. We got a top 10 pick. Grab your quarterback for the future. Brock's not your guy. trade Brock.
I think what makes this hard though is that Kyle does have a say, right? Because Kyle has to agree to go to this new team, and if he's looking at Chicago saying, "Hey, I don't want to answer to those guys," or that front office is a disaster, it's like, I'll just retire or sit out, or you know what I mean? Like he does have that autonomy too. So you really got to make sure it's something that can work for both. But listen, if the Bengals end up firing their coach, like maybe that's a spot. I don't think he'd want to go to New York. I think that's way too tough of a spotlight for him. I think there's no chance on that. So
no, I don't know what his how the trade thing works with coaches. If he retires, don't we retain his rights like Sean Payton?
Yeah, if he were to like just step away, we would retain his rights. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
That's a thought. That's all I got for you.
All right, bro. Listen, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone on that take of like, hey, let's get rid of Kyle. So I feel it.
I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, later. Okay, well, Deshaun was unable to make it back in. I might throw the link out for a few more people. Hugo is asking for it, so I'll give it to a couple more people here. I just take it down when we get too far backed up because I just don't know how long things are going to go. All right, there's the link. Hugo and others, if you want to click that, and then we're going to go to Trevor in a minute. Deshaun, dude, call back in. He said, I wanted to bring out your take of Brock being Mr. Right, but not Mr. Right now. No one is arguing that now. Yeah, that whole video, the whole point of that was at that time they had Trey and they had Brock. And my whole take there was like, there's a chance that neither of these guys are the quarterback. Like that is a possibility. And I said, if you wanted to win now in 2023, so this was going into last season, I said, if you want to win now, Brock Purdy's the answer. But if you want a chance at a possible elite quarterback, then you would see what Trey's got. And then I said that there is a possibility that neither are the long-term answer, but you got to find out. And I think that Brock Purdy is Mr. Right now, but he's not Mr. Right. So that was the whole premise of it. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I do remember that video still exists on the channel. It sure does. All right, we're gonna go Trevor, Eric. Actually, we're gonna go Trevor Allen because he's back in. Then Eric, then Hugo, then Michael. All right, here we go. What's up, Trevor? Trevor, you muted. Y'all muted, Trevor. The bottom of the screen, there's a mute. Going once, going twice, and sold. All right, we lost a spot. There we go. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly how it ended up playing out, which was always a possibility. You know what I mean? Always a possibility. Okay, let's go to Alan. What's up, Alan?
Is it better?
Not really. But your voice is a little bit louder. I think we might be able to make it through this one. We'll see.
Well, I'll make it nice and short.
Okay.
I know you saying Richardson doesn't look good, but there's a whole story behind it, maybe for another time. But I do.
Yeah,
agree.
I know. You're an Indy. You see a lot. I got you.
But I do think you're correct on the Brock aspect. You say he's great, but he's not elite. And I think he's in the same tier as what you could say. Well, maybe we could throw in like golf. Maybe not the strongest arm, but if he got a good team around, he could win you games like Jared Goff has been doing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Goff's elite by any means, but Goff, they've proven that you can go to a Super Bowl with Goff and you can make it to an. It's interesting because, like Jimmy with the 49ers was within arm's reach of what Goff was and what Brock has been, right? Behind, obviously, but Goff is one of those guys that has proven that, yeah, not elite, but he also can go to a Super Bowl and lose, and he can also go to an NFC championship and lose. Like, these guys do exist, and we've seen it happen a lot where as long as these guys are cheap and everything's right around them, crazy things can happen. We've even seen a couple times where they creep up and win a Super Bowl. It's just when they start getting paid, and that's the unfortunate thing with the Lions is that they've got all these injuries this year. If that holds them back from winning a Super Bowl, Goff's contract's only going up, which is this year it's manageable at 23. I don't know what it is after this year, but they may not be able to keep a lot of those guys around them. And so then what do they do? How do they remain competitive? So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out for them as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's the same thing, but like you said, like you've been saying for a while, when do you start blaming Brock in these situations? Like you said, the last,
He's off. Listen, he's off limits. Brock is off limits. Anybody
but
but Brock.
but Justin Herbert's not. He's not elite by any means, Jesse.
Yeah, for sure.
But all in all, I think he does deserve an extension. Don't get me wrong, but you see a lot of the hesitation why, you, Jesse, Grant, others are saying, hey, don't pay him quite that 60 million because he's gonna disappoint you, or people's gonna get disappointed. Oh, another IU contract where he's not worth it, all that crap. It's just all over the place. It seems like there's always a player every offseason that has this kind of situation going on.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is the ebbs and flows of seasons and off seasons. There's always going to be somebody to pay. There's always going to be, you know what I mean? So this
Yeah.
just happens to be the quarterback position. And I'm curious to see because we have two sets of data from the 49ers. We have the set of data where they do play hardball, even with guys who not might be, but are elite in this league. Like we've seen it with Bosa. They'll play hardball. And then you've got the side where they paid Jimmy immediately. So, like, what are they going to do in this situation? Is it they treat the quarterbacks like this, and when they're ready to pay, they just pay? Or do they play a little bit of hardball because his agent wants more than what they're willing to dole out? I'm just curious to see how this whole thing plays out. I do think it eventually gets done, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll be a slow process or a quick process or how it's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't want to see us pay a quarterback and it's not panning out where we can get a good team anymore. Look at Kansas City, for example, but you can't really throw Kansas City because of Mahomes, but they can't have as many weapons as like they used to on offense. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, man. You're right. All right, bro. Have a good one. I appreciate you tapping in. Later. It was definitely better. It wasn't great, but it was definitely better. All right. We're going to go to Eric, who's a Seahawks fan. They're down bad right now. What's up, Eric?
Oh, my goodness. What's going on, Jesse?
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine today. Last night, not so much.
What's going on with Gino? Is he like hurt, or is he?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope he's okay. Because if he's not, that could just about guarantee him from where I'm doing the business if he's not.
Yeah. I don't think Gino's a great quarterback by any means, but Sam Howell is awful. So there's still levels. Like one is clearly a backup in this league, and one is a starter. And there's a major difference between the two. That much is very clear.
Yeah, and being man, what Campbell, he just gave up on his teammates. That was pathetic.
Are you talking about him going for the onside kick?
No, the other one.
Campbell. Oh, our Campbell.
Yeah.
I was thinking Dan Campbell. Yeah, man, that whole thing was crazy. I haven't even really talked about it. It was definitely pathetic for sure. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Very pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be there for your team, there, John.
What's even crazier, Eric, is today Bosa came out and said that he had a feeling something was going to happen. Like he saw it pre-game in the locker room. He could tell there was something off with Campbell. Like there was a vibe he was getting from him. Like not necessarily that he wasn't going to play, but just like he clearly was not happy with the situation and that he wasn't getting a start. So it makes you wonder, like, did a coach approach him at all and have a conversation and pick up on that vibe, or did everybody just kind of we'll just let it play out? And then we saw it play out, and it was worse than what they expected. Those, that's interesting to me too.
Yep, and then so yeah, things are going pretty good out here. Yeah, things are going good.
Well, good luck to your Seahawks, man. You guys got a tough one against the Vikings, and hopefully Gino's able to play. That would suck to have your season lost because your quarterback went down.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, brother. Well, there you go. Seahawks fan tapping in. I do real quick want to shout out Underdog Fantasy for being the sponsor of this channel all season long. Make sure you check them out. Link is in the description. Promo code LSS. That'll get you your 50% deposit match up to $1,000 plus your one free play. You can do weekly fantasy, daily fantasy, more or lesses. Underdog has got you covered. They've been an awesome, awesome sponsor all year long for me. Thank you, Underdog, and thank you for those that have shown support to the channel by using my promo code and or link and tapping in with Underdog. All right, let's get to Hugo, and then actually, let me make sure I didn't miss. Okay, we're good. Let's get to Hugo and then Michael. What's up, Hugo?
Jazz, what up, man? Salute to you. You know what I mean? The snapback king. I still need one of those hats. I still need
Hey, just you got to hit me up in a DM. I'll tell you how you can get one for sure. I don't sell them, right? Like I'm not like in the merchandising game, but I can tell you how to get one if you want one.
Well, you need to, man. Them hats is fire, bro. I'm a sneakerhead, bro. There's a couple caps that you put on, and I'm like, yo, I can match these with these J's. You know what I mean? So, first off, I want to salute you for that. The schemes are dope.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
I want to get into this season's basically done, right? So I want to talk about what we could do later on. You know what I mean? With next season. First off, the O line needs to get fixed up. The D line needs to get fixed up, right? So, besides Purdy and Trent, which Trent, we don't know what's going to happen with him. So we just have a right guard. That's all we have. Brock needs safety. I don't think that Brock is necessarily bad. Is he worth the money that he's asking? No. I don't think he's that. But with the protections and all that stuff, and with the scheme of what the 49ers did previously, I think it could work. But how can we get everything going through the draft? I don't think we could pick a full O-line, a full defensive line, and get everything moving. Everything outside of the defensive line, like we have, Tavares Ward's probably going to be out, but we have Demo. I think that Greenlaw needs to get re-signed. I think that Huff should get re-signed also, because that helps out the defense in a sense. I don't know about the defensive line overall, but what they're going to do. And then I don't know about the O-line overall in a draft. How could we fix those situations where we could protect Purdy and the defense gets better with losing people?
Yeah, and that's going to be the tough part, right? And that's why I think a lot of people have this thought that the team's just going to be okay next year, and it was all injuries. And it's like, to me, there's a lot more going on than that. And I think you're going to have to hit on a couple of drafts. And this is where the transition happens, right? We've seen where they haven't hit on multiple drafts before this one. But what they've been able to do, because Brock was so cheap or so inexpensive, is that they were able to go mask some of those misses in the draft through free agency. So now what's going to happen is once you pay Brock, you're going to have to hit in the draft, because if you miss, you're not going to be able to mask all those deficiencies through free agency. You're not going to have the money anymore. So you're going to have to hit multiple times. Like this year was great, but you're going to have to duplicate that 2 or 3 more times before you really restock this cupboard to where it's going to be. It's not going to happen through one draft. It's just not going to. Now, you might be able to revamp one of them through one draft or make one of them okay or improve it a little bit, but you're not going to be able to get it to that dominant level that we're looking for in the trenches through one draft. It's just not reality.
All right. So what I think with that is that I think that Kyle and whoever is the coaching staff on top of that actually gets all the draft picks, right? Because I don't think it's a problem with Kyle's scheme. I think it's the players that's playing in Kyle's scheme, especially with the O-line. If you notice the way that we're playing right now, especially with the run game, they're not opening up gaps. Players are running into each other. So, Kyle's scheme is more like about timing. Everything has to be on time. So if he don't have the right players to get the O-line rolling the way that he wants it to go, then it's just a disaster. It don't matter if it's Garendo, it don't matter if it's Mason, it don't matter if it's CMC. They're getting pinched right at the line, especially when you're going up the middle. There's the gaps are not opening up. So my question to you is, O-line, they're somewhat, supposedly, from what everybody says, they're actually type good. I don't see it as they're good. We need a better O-line to be able to open up them gaps and create them lanes for our running backs to do their thing. We're a run first team. Now I believe that Purdy is decent enough, with the run game, that we're able to do something with him. So if that's the case, then I don't mind paying Purdy that money. If everything is all adjusted to work for Purdy. Now, if that's not working, then why pay him that bread, bro? That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And to be fair, the running grades on this team's O-line are actually not good. Like what you're seeing does check out through statistics. The pass protection grades are very good, much higher than most. Now, but again, two things can be true at once, where the offensive line isn't great, but in comparison to the rest of the league, they rank higher, right? So, like, the point is that there's a lot of teams that are dealing with a lot worse across the league. Most teams are dealing with worse than the 49ers. Now, we look at it and we're isolated and we say that center sucks, that right tackle sucks, that left guard sucks, which all might be true, but as a unit, they rank higher than more than half the league. So if we think ours is that bad, imagine how bad it is for other teams and other quarterbacks, and they're dealing with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I think is that our problem is not outside of in 20-yard line, 30-yard line. It's when we get into the red zone.
Yep.
So that's the problem. So our O-line is not working to make the scores go up. When we get into the red zone, the protection is not there. It could be coaching or not. But let me ask you this real quick, right? Because
and then after this one, I do got to let you slide because I got 3 more. So
I sent a couple messages out, didn't get responded to.
Okay.
But what if Brock started calling his own protections, did an audible without Kyle saying it's okay for him to do it, and it actually worked? Do you think that Kyle would let his leash go a little bit longer and let him call the audibles and call his own protections? Because from my understanding, the center calls the protections, right? So if we take that center out and put somebody that doesn't really know the system, but Brock calls the protections, that might help out a little bit.
Well, oddly enough, they're two separate things. So we know that Kyle does not allow him to fully audible. He can only from one play to another, but both are given in the huddle. However, he actually does have autonomy to call his own protections. Now, in this scheme, the center does call the protections, but Kyle was asked this offseason by Tim Kawakami, and he said, my quarterbacks always can call their own protections. Most find it easier to let the center do it and just go play quarterback because they don't want to think about it. But they all do have the option to call their protections if there is something that they see. So that was straight from Kyle's mouth. So it sounds like Brock and all of his quarterbacks have been able to call their own protections. They just can't audible.
All right. So if he went rogue and did an audible,
okay.
What do you think?
Listen, Kyle's the type, to me, no, I don't think that would fly. Kyle's the type that when things work, there is the story that Mike McDaniel told when they were doing the whole podcast thing. It was either this last offseason or the one before. It was like all the coaches from his tree, and they were talking about how it was to work together. And McDaniel told a story about how Nick Mullins didn't throw it to the correct read, but it resulted in a touchdown, and Kyle was pissed. Wow. So it's like, man, Kyle's the type of guy that if it doesn't go the way that he expects, or you don't do what he expects you to do, he's not going to be happy. At least that's what he's shown to be. I don't know that he would do that with Brock or how that would go, but you got to imagine that that's probably the route he would take.
Brock became a franchise quarterback. Like, do you think it will be more of a leash? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that over time there has to be some give and take. And, at some point, like if Brock does get paid big time QB1 money, like the hierarchy of who's important within this franchise does change. Right now it's Kyle. But if Brock gets that real big money, he's and he wants to play that game where he's like, F you, I'm going to do what I want. Not that I think he's that type of guy, but if he did, he now trumps the head coach. Like, he is the man. So at some point, like, that power does have to be given a little bit to Brock if he is requesting it. The question is does he request it? I don't know.
One last question, though, before you get off. Did you hear the demon mode?
The what?
Demon mode.
You talking about the album?
No, demon mode is what I nicknamed Mason.
Oh, yeah. Demon mode. Yeah. Okay.
I nicknamed him that just to throw out in the air. You know what I mean? I'm the one that
I remember in the chat. I remember you throwing that out there in the chat. I do remember that.
He run like he possessed. Hopefully he stays with us next year. You know what I mean?
That's the hard part, man. I don't know that they're going to be able to bring him back. Man, if we lose Mason, that would suck. But they're going to have some tough decisions this offseason, man. They really are.
But Jess, I know you got other callers, or you got to end your show, or whatever. I appreciate you. Matter of fact, I'm the one that messaged you about not being able to go to the Tampa game because it was my daughter's birthday.
Yeah, I remember that. You had got him for your birthday, and then you couldn't go because it was her birthday. I do remember that. Yeah, that sucks.
But yeah, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate the calling. You know what I mean? I was waiting for one, and luckily I caught one tonight.
Absolutely. I'm glad I shot the link out so you're able to get in, man.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you though, bro. And I need some of them heads, man.
All right, just DM me. DM me on Twitter. I don't know if you have Twitter, but I answer my DMs over there.
I do have Twitter, but I stay off of it or whatever. But
okay, we'll jump on Twitter and DM me or email me. My email is in the description. You can email me there. Not the description of the video, but like of the channel. If you go to the description of the channel, it's all in there. So you can email me and I'll respond there too.
All right, definitely, bro. I appreciate you, bro. Love you, bro. You be safe, man.
Thanks, man. You too.
Get your contact, bro.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Well, listen, that's all you got to do is butter me up, and then I'll like you forever. So Hugo's good in my mind. No. All right, we're gonna go to Michael, then Greg, then Trevor. All right, Michael.
What's up, Jesse? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good. Just watching Monday Night Football right now.
What's going on? What's the scores look like?
It's 10-0 right now, Minnesota.
Isn't there two games? Am I tripping? Isn't there two games?
Minnesota and Chicago and Atlanta and Vegas.
Oh God, what barn burners? Okay.
I know. Anyways, I'm to the point after the whole Brandon Ayuk drama that we had this offseason of not paying any players any more money, just handing it left and right again. Because number one, when we pay players, it seems like they fall off production wise. Where's Nick Bosa been since we paid him? Fred Warner's stepped off a little bit since we stepped down a little bit since we paid him. George Kittle, granted, yes, he is the only player that seems to play hungry now on this team. But when we pay players, nobody plays hungry anymore. So why are we so quick to pay Brock Purdy over $60 million based off of one good season when he had everybody healthy? And now we're starting to see why he was drafted in round 7, the last pick of the draft, which we even passed on him 7 times. $60 million based off of one good season. It wasn't him that took this team to the Super Bowl by himself. It was the team around him. And the sooner the people realize that, the better I think we would all be on the same page, like saying, like, whoa, wait a minute. What are we doing here? Like, why are we rushing into this situation that's going to eventually come back to bite us in the ass? Because when I look around the league and watch games on Sundays, not just the 49ers, yes, I'm a 49ers fan, but I also like to look around the league too, to sort of give an unbiased opinion on players on our team.
Yep.
Brock Purdy does not carry this team. When you look around the league at other quarterbacks, for example, when we played Buffalo Bills that night in Buffalo, you saw what a $60 million quarterback looked like versus one who makes you scratch your head at times on Sundays. You know what I mean? Like, when I don't think Brock's that good. I don't know what people see. Like, I love the kid. He's a great dude and everything like that, and standout dude, a good human. But as far as a football player goes, no, he doesn't wow you on Sundays. He doesn't, like, when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, when you look at Buffalo Bills, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, when you look at Joe Burrow, those guys wow you. Like, you pay those guys $60 million. You know what I mean? It's just frustrating that we're even having this conversation in year 8 with this current regime when we should have drafted a quarterback in 2017 when they first got here. Like, that's a fireable offense right there. When you know you're coming into a situation trying to rebuild a roster, the first position on the team, the first position you need to start filling is the quarterback position, and you wait because you want Kirk Cousins. That's stupid. Like, it's coming back to haunt us right now, which is why we're having this conversation of should we pay Brock Purdy or should we not. And to me, it sounds like the front office and the Brock's agent are on 2 totally different pages from when the reports that were coming out. I mean, if it's am I reading that wrong, or is that correct?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think that they are going to pay him something, but you've got his agent. Well, I assume it's his agent that has come out through Tom Pelissero and said, "Hey, you know, they're looking to reset the market." I do have on good accord that his agent DM somebody I know who had suggested that they pay Brock Purdy like Baker Mayfield, and he DM'd them and said, "Absolutely not. We're not taking that type of deal, just so you know." So his agent's out there doing work. And then you've got the 49ers on the flip side that have come out through Greg Papa. Greg Papa came out today and was like, "Oh, yeah, the 49ers are going to pay Brock. They want him here, but, they're not going to go over 50. So you are hearing, like, both sides of it already starting to be played out. Yeah, two different numbers and 2 different sides. So, they're starting to come out a little bit. Yeah.
That's got me thinking, why would we commit to somebody for a long period of time when we don't even know how long we're going to keep Kyle Shanahan? Because right now he has 2 years left on his deal. He's going into his final 2 years of his deal. Like, why would we commit to a quarterback for 5 years when we don't even know what the coaching situation is going to be like 2 years from now? You know how messy that's going to be.
They like to extend people. They're going to extend him too, probably.
God help us.
I say just kidding, but I'm not actually. I know. They probably will.
I hope to God that does not happen, because Jed's got to be the stupidest owner for not seeing what the situation is, why we're in it the way they're the reasons why we're in it, the situation we're in. Missing multiple first round draft picks, not being able to build enough depth to rotate guys in and out of the lineup to keep them healthy. Like, Jed, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, look in the mirror, dude. This is why we're in the situation why we can't win Super Bowls and can't close it
Dude.
out. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't care. You can put a Great Wall of China around Brock Purdy. He's still gonna look like Brock Purdy. He's not gonna become some elite player like people think that he's going to be. You know what I mean? Like,
Oddly enough, Michael, there's actually stats that do measure this right now. Under protection, so you can measure a quarterback based off of how they play with protection versus when they're pressured. And last year, when he was protected, he was at that elite number. He was like, I think he ranked third in his efficiency stats. This year, he ranks 24th. So even when he's been protected, he hasn't played well.
and I don't remember seeing Brock Purdy throw beyond 20 yards at all, like accurately. And that's another issue, even with protection. You know what I mean? That's another thing. Like,
it's
why
been
would
a
you pay
while.
somebody like that
He's done it a
$60 million?
couple times this year, but
I mean,
this year he's been inconsistent.
I listened to your Steve Young interview clip that you posted on your shorts or whatever.
Yeah.
Even he's having reservations about Brock Purdy.
Oh yeah, you can hear it. He's trying to be nice, but you can definitely hear it. Yeah.
If you can't play in wet weather games, then and he said if it's starting to become a theme, then why would you pay him this amount of money? That's another alarming thing that I have. If you can't play in wet weather, why should we pay you $60 million? You know, I don't know any team that's paid a quarterback who lost a Super Bowl $60 million. That's you have to be high to do that, or dumb.
Yeah. Well,
Anyways,
I mean, we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see what they end up paying him, bro. They're gonna pay him something, Michael. They're gonna pay him something.
I hope it's just like at least a 1-year rental raise, and that's about it. That's like all I would do, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's definitely numbers I'm comfortable with. There's terms, but I don't know. I don't know where the 49ers heads
All
at.
right,
I mean,
Jesse.
wouldn't it be crazy, Michael, just real quick, if like all of a sudden, like we're just assuming like it's this and that, but the 49ers are actually thinking like, yeah, there's a number and there's years we're comfortable with too. And if you are way over here and we're way over here, we are willing to kind of
part ways
hold off.
if that's the case. If we can't come to terms to a number, then just let him walk and see where he can get the numbers he wants. You know, like don't rush to pay players anymore. Like, my God, look at the history so far that when we paid players. Trent Williams has not been up to par ever since we given him more money. Christian McCaffrey, you know, like Brandon Ayuk, like just don't rush into paying players anymore. Like, take a page from the Patriots playbook when they went on their dynasty run. Don't pay anybody. That's
the
what
Chiefs
we
are
need to
doing
do.
it too. The Chiefs are doing it too.
They keep recycling receivers every single year, and the only player that they paid is Patrick Mahomes, and that's a smart move, I think. But we don't have a Patrick Mahomes, so. Anyways, Jesse, I'll let you go. Great talking.
Hi, brother.
You. Take it
Good
easy,
call,
man.
You
For
too.
sure. All right, take care.
I like how he was like a silent killer. He just came in, didn't raise his voice. Just, I don't understand it. I mean, Brock Purdy just doesn't wow me, and you could build a great wall of China around him, and he's not going to be any good. You know what he was like? He's like George Kittle. George Kittle always says it with a smile, but he's really saying F you. It's like, yeah, guys, it was real fun out there in the rain. Oh, shucks, wish I got the ball more. It's like, oh, so really you're just mad at your quarterback and coach for not getting you the ball, but you said it in the nicest way possible, and nobody picked up on it. That's fantastic. That was a good call. That was a good call. All right, we're going to go to Greg and then Trevor in a second here. Dave says, I'm just glad it's obvious now that Purdy isn't good. The truth can be somewhere in the middle. Like, Purdy's good. He is a good quarterback. He's just not elite. Like, Dave says, I wondered how anyone could support Jimmy G. It's back. All right, chill out. Dave says, Brock, Brick do 1.1, and I'm not sure he's worth that. Okay, all right, chill. Yeah, the hate has gone too far, man. The hate has gone too far. Get those sinuses cleaned out tomorrow, man. You'll feel better. Cryptic says, any positive despite the down season? I know the conversation is what went wrong and who leaves and who stays, but I do like the rooks. Mustafa Green, only one season, and we're seeing Jair this year. Nice start. Yeah, Jair's been off and on. No, there's definitely some good things for sure. They just got to continue to build through the draft, though. Like, you've had one really good draft over the last like 3 years, and it was nice. You just got to keep building that way. And especially if they are going to pay Brock that money, then that's how they're going to have to build. So this draft cannot be a one-off. They can't miss on the draft like they have been in the past and go make up through free agency, because they're just not going to have the money. So we just got to see more of that. That's really all it comes down to. All right, let's go to Greg. I saw him laughing backstage at Michael when he said the Great Wall of China take. That was pretty good.
That was really good. So, hey, I got a couple questions for you. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget.
Okay.
You know how, like, I don't know if you remember, but I called a few weeks ago when we were going to Seahawks game, and me and my son,
I do.
who's a Seahawks fan, unfortunately. But we were talking, right? I know you talked to your kid, and but I've been telling him that Geno is their version of Jimmy G. And that we were wondering, we're going to let you be the tiebreaker. Do you think that's a good analogy? Because he's got the same amount of picks as he has touchdowns. He always throws a pick in the wrong time of the game. He gets hurt, as we see. And so he reminds me of Jimmy G. He's the Seahawks version of Jimmy G. What do you think?
I mean, obviously completely different paths, but yeah, I mean, kind of. That's pretty much. I mean, he's certainly not the guy. He's the bridge quarterback, and they've got to be searching as well. Like, I felt like they really should have done whatever they could to get Penix there last year. They should have been in on and maybe should still be in on guys in this draft as well. Geno cannot be the full-time answer. Now, there is a big difference, right? And this is where the argument comes in. And this is what 49er fans did with Jimmy Garoppolo, which is they saw Nick Mullins play and CJ Beathard, and they're like, yeah, but we can't win with those guys. Yep, oddly enough, the same thing we're doing with Brandon Allen, like he's worth his salt in the league, but I digress. But that's what now the Seahawks fans who support Geno, they're now looking at it going, you see Sam Howell? He can't operate. The offensive line's terrible. What's he supposed to do? And it's like, no, Geno's better than Sam Howell. There's no argument there, but that doesn't mean he's the guy. I mean, how many red zone interceptions do we have to see before we're like, dude, at some point, you just can't make the same mistake over and over and over.
Sounds like Jimmy G to me. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Good comp.
So, okay. So the other question I had on here was something. Do you think Kyle or Lyle, banana hands is what I wrote down. Kyle, his scheme. Do you think his schemes get players hurt? Because it seems like we get every year some position on the offense goes through them. Quarterbacks were last year or year before last, and then this year's running backs. Do you think his scheme? And I don't think he does it on purpose. I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose.
I know what you're saying.
But I just think his scheme doesn't protect. We know he doesn't protect players, but does his scheme put players in bad positions?
I don't know that his scheme does, but his unwillingness to play other players, I think sometimes does, especially at the running back position. It's like clear, like early on, he did this split with Raheem Mostert and some of those other guys, which was awesome. But now he's just whoever the running back is, that's the running back. They get all the touches. And it's like most running backs can't play that way in today's league. They just can't. They're not going to make it through a full season. There's only, so many Derrick Henrys out there. Like, he's a whole freak of nature. But most guys do need to be spelled and at least get a blow every once in a while. But it's like when CMC's there, he's just full go. And I think it all comes back down to he doesn't have a feel for the game. Dre Greenlaw is another example of this, where Dre Greenlaw, there should have been a plan in place where he was sitting out every third series or something as he's getting his legs back. And there clearly was. And it was just like, we're going to play him. They pushed. He was out there giving his all, playing really good football. But at some point, his body wore down because he jumped into a playoff scenario in a playoff game, essentially, with no buildup other than what he's doing, working on the sideline and his light practices. There was no buildup to harden his body to get it ready for that rigorous of a game to play 50 plus snaps. And that's what they were prepared to do. It's like, you can't do that.
But I don't understand why he does it. I don't get it. I try to say, okay, that's true. And I go, okay, there's got to be a reason why he does it that way. Can you think of a reason why? Is he just that blind to that? Or is there, because he's
I think
scared of
that,
losing and he's going to lose his job? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there's probably multiple things. And like I said, I think that during the game, he's so into his play sheet that that's all he cares about. You know what I mean? And you see it, you can watch it. It's physically, anybody go to a game, just watch Kyle
yeah,
Shanahan.
I did notice
He
that when I
doesn't
went to the
hardly look
game this
up.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Yep.
notice that. That sucks, man. Then I don't think we can. I don't even want to say it out loud, but I don't think he's the coach for us. Then he's a great coach too. He can scheme up some players. He's really innovative. Um, he's got coaches all over the league, and they're winning for the most part. And so he's a great coach. I just don't understand why he doesn't get out of his way. I actually thought when Purdy first got drafted, when we first got Purdy, I thought Purdy's gonna fix, quote unquote, fix Kyle. He's gonna, he has, because you can tell Purdy does have some feel for the game, and so I thought maybe that they would balance each other out. But now, I just wonder if this year if Purdy's just trying to. Here's my theory, and here's my theory on Purdy and his passing this year. Remember last year, O'Sullivan, JT, was hammering he was, everybody was kind of parroting his little talking points about them not throwing down the field and dinking and dunking and all that stuff. And I wonder in this offseason if those two got, Kyle and Purdy said, okay, fine, we'll show you. And this is what we're getting. I'll show you we got a better offense and we'll pass more. Because it seems like we run less than we did in its history. It seems like we run the ball less and we pass a lot more this year. And I just wonder if that had something to do, him wanting to show us that he could do whatever. I don't know. That's my theory, is that he's just trying to show it up. And that's why he's so stubborn and he won't change, because he wants to show. Because
I think Kyle's pretty stubborn. I don't know if I'm fully with you on that theory, but the stubborn part, I'm there. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah,
You got me sold
I
on
don't
stubborn.
understand, but see, I guess I like to understand why you do stuff. When I talk to my kids or people at work, why are you doing? You made a bad decision. Why? The decision is bad, whatever. But why did you make that decision? Maybe you had the wrong information. When you were going to make that decision. And I look at Kyle that way, and I go like, dude, you make bad decisions. People ask you about your bad decisions. You get mad at them for asking, but you still make the decision. And I don't. And it doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me at all. But anyway, I'm probably running out of my time here. But I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate your show, man. It keeps us going. Me and my boy talk about the stuff all the time. So keep up the hard work, bro.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Greg.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Later. Well, I'm glad I could be the tiebreaker for him and his son, their conversations. Hung Meow says, Jess, when Kyle leaves, I will return as a Niner fan. All right, fair enough. You fan how you want. Feed Me More Seahawks says Gino and Jimmy are not in the same category. You sure about that? You sure? Why? Why are they not in the same category? Based off of what exactly? I don't know. I mean, Gino certainly has more physical tools, but I don't like Gino's body language. He doesn't exude confidence to me. Alex says, would anyone be okay with getting paid less than your counterparts at work when you've produced better results for your company? No shot you take less. No, I agree, but based off of that argument, Alex, Brock hasn't produced better than the other quarterbacks in the league. He's very mediocre this year by every statistical measure other than QBR, which, okay, QBR, great. But every other statistical measure, he's very mediocre. So, and in QBR, he is sliding. He's at like number 9 now. A couple weeks ago, he was at 4. So, I don't know. And Dazza says, we seem to be in a catch-22. Most teams that invest in a quarterback spend on O-line. Trevor, I'll get with you in a minute. Spend on O-line. Chiefs, Eagles, Lions. But if Brock gets 55 to 65, how are we investing in the O line, paying 2 wide receivers, Bosa, 30 million plus? Draft. You got to draft. I mean, whether Debo's gone this year or in a couple, by the time it's time to pay some of those offensive linemen, he won't be on the books. CMC won't be on the books. Kittle likely won't be on the books. So you just got to do it through the draft. You got to do it through the draft. But you're right. It's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough. All right, let's go to Trevor. What's up, Trevor?
Yeah, man. Been listening for a long time. First time caller. I hope my sound isn't bugging out too much for you. It's
No, it's
we
pretty good,
just
actually. It's pretty good.
dude, we just had a town wide blackout, so I had to step outside for a little bit. So
Really?
out here in the forest, dude. Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
have to laugh at all the Purdy haters, just
Mhm.
because, like, guys, it's you don't get to set the market. It's a seller's market, and it's always going to be that way regarding QBs. That's why literal warm bodies like Zach Wilson and CJ Beathard are still in the league. Like they're just paid to sit on the bench and give advice. Mostly, I don't know about CJ, but he was in the league last year, right?
Yeah,
So
I think he might be out now, yeah.
yeah, so whatever you think Purdy is worth, your opinion doesn't matter because guys like T-Law got paid, right? Guys like Jordan Love, who are still unknown commodities, got paid. And Purdy, you know, however much you want to attribute our success in the past couple of years to him or not, he still took the team to an NFC, which he didn't win and didn't lose, right? So he has that argument going for him, and he took us to the Super Bowl, right? It's not a job you can just autopilot. There's a reason it's the hardest job in the world. Now, I've had serious doubts, and dating from this past game, starting from the Ravens game. Uh, but a lot of it, you have to question the tools around him, and you have to question the scheme. Prior to this year, a lot of his successful passes were just based on just sit behind center, do a two-step drop, and go straight over the middle to Kittle, go straight over the middle to BA, right? Or you do an end around sort of RPO, which gives you time, which sort of helps him sort of compensate for his lack of throwing ability, right? And even in the rain last year, we saw in the Cleveland game during that 3-game losing stretch, as bad as it was, he still gave us an opportunity to win that game in the end, and we lost on the missed kick. So what I'm basically leading up to is this year was supposed to be an evaluation year. We were supposed to see
Mhm.
what does he look like under average scenario. We saw what he was like with the best. This year we've seen what he's like at the worst. We still are no closer to seeing what he's really worth, right? If you're asking me, I'd give him, right. Everybody would say 45 million would be like pretty acceptable, right?
Mhm.
But the fact remains is that others got paid 50 to basically be tomato cans. The 49ers have no leverage, and they've shown in the past that they're not willing to stand on business. They will fold and give these people unproven talents money just for throwing a tantrum. I don't expect him to act different, and I don't expect Kyle to change up his scheme based on his history. Um, I mean, what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I that's what I was going to ask you is, so then what's the solution? Like, I mean, if they weren't able to win with him costing peanuts in an all-star cast around him, what what's the end game? You know what I mean? Like, so they're going to pay him. Let's say they do just give in. They pay him, the 55 plus million dollars or whatever. And Kyle's still got his shortcomings and the things that make him good as well. It's not just shortcomings, but what's the end game? It what cost? I mean, it's not like
Well,
this
the
team
end
is going
game
to be any
is
closer to winning a Super Bowl.
the end game. Well, it's not really an end game. This is going to be a transitional period, but that
Hmm.
period right now is you're going to have to decide whether you want to go in on the draft on the line, which is the correct answer, or whether you
Yeah,
want to go
agree.
in and get maybe one new offensive piece and then focus on maybe second level, right? Which is really the area of need that we didn't address this year, which led to the Campbell disaster, right? And the problem is that Kyle, because this organization is run based on seniority and based on hierarchy instead of based on talent and merit, we don't get to see those young talents until when right now when it doesn't matter. So how much pressure is on them? So how can you identify that talent, right? Or at the beginning of the year when he's thoroughly vetted them, right? And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. like we don't know who Ricky Pearsall really is. Even during training
Yeah.
camp, he only ever wore the blue shirt. He never
Yeah.
really did contact, so we don't know. Jacob Cowing, as much as he's a burner, there's a reason he hasn't been played, and that's because he's got fumbleitis, right? And in that way, I can understand Kyle, right? Because dating to last year, if JJ catches that punt in the third quarter, then there's a good chance that change in momentum doesn't happen for the Chiefs, right? At that time, Travis is yelling in his coach's face, right? So I can understand where Kyle's coming from there, but there's a profound culture shift that needs to happen. You can't run the team and just completely ignore your talent and completely ignore your best man up in favor of your next man up. And if that doesn't happen, then yeah, we're going to go through a really existential kind of, it's going to be a rough couple of years, right? That's really what we're trying to figure out. What kind of team do we want to be? We have to face up to the fact that we haven't had to worry about what it's like to have a real quarterback, right? Kyle has a blank check and he could just spend on talent and neglect the quarterback and neglect the offensive line and just draft cool players, cool people, cool plays, rah, 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 right? And that's great for the checkbooks. That's great for getting money. That's great for getting jersey sales, but it's not great for building repeatable success and great culture on the upper level.
Yeah, and that's why I say I think that we're looking at a period where they probably don't win a playoff game for a couple of years. I mean, they really do have to assess this team and retool it. And whether Purdy's a part of that or not, that has to be done. Like, it has to be done. You're not going to get a replacement overnight that's going to make you a contender, right? Like, that's just not realistic. The question just becomes is how do you want to go about that? Do you want to go about that paying a guy that kind of money? And then if that's the case, then you got to really be diligent about hitting in the draft. Or do you want the autonomy to do what they've been able to do up to this point, which is, okay, yeah, we got the draft, but if we miss, at least we've got other avenues, because those avenues do go away once you pay big time money to any quarterback. So, that's where it's going to have to come in, is they're just going to have to figure out what the long-term deal is with this team and what is their best course of winning, because ultimately next year is probably not going to be that year. They have to take a natural back step before they can take that step forward again. And I think we're starting to see that come to fruition a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, in many ways, we are in the same boat as Dallas right now, right? And that's where the fans have trouble seeing the horizon forward, is because there's no clear road ahead for a couple of years because you locked yourself in with these receivers and with Bosa. I think Bosa deserves it. I don't know about BA, but going forward, the money's going to be tight, but that means you have to play the team tight, just like we did back in 2018 and 2019, right? Where we played to scheme and played to fit rather than playing with overwhelming talent. And that's the real question, is what does Kyle want to transform this team into? And I think this year was sort of an experiment for him. I think that's why we saw Brock basically playing from under center more than like 70% of the snaps. Where before, like I said, he was coming off a two-step drop. He was doing quick play action passes, nothing longer than 2 seconds. This year, they're treating him like he's Aaron freaking Rodgers. When we've seen that, right, more than half the time, he's incapable of throwing the ball more than 40 yards, right? When his success dates back to the Yak Attack, where this year it just hasn't happened. So it's a chicken and the egg question, right? You could say it
For
hasn't happened
sure.
because Purdy's not talented, or you could say because they changed the scheme up without considering the ramifications of such. Either way, it didn't work. So he's got to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this is this is gonna be an interesting offseason, Trevor. This is gonna
Oh
be interesting for
yeah.
sure.
See, that's what we love to see. You don't need to win to enjoy the game, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the goal.
Look, I think we'd all rather win, but it does become interesting because there's multiple ways that you can get excited, right? You've got the 49ers, which there's a lot of free agents. They're going through a little bit of a downturn. How do they recover as quickly as possible? So that conversation's available. If you are high up in the draft, then at that point you can really talk about like who should be taken and how important this draft is for your franchise. And then if your team's really good, you can talk about the path to the Super Bowl and how close they are. Like, there is multiple ways that a team can be interesting, but with the 49ers, we're used to them being interesting in January and February and then having a downturn up until, the draft comes around. Well, now they're not interesting in January and February, but they will be very interesting come March. So that's where everything changes a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think whether or not you agree that Purdy should be paid this year, next year, or not at all, I think at the very least we need to see some of next year so we can see what it's like in sort of a normal atmosphere where he's not running for his life and to where there's real stakes on him, right? I think you could give this team Brian freaking Hoyer, and I still don't think the division is beyond our reach. Our division is a tomato can division. The Seahawks are great. Or they're not great, but they have a formula for success if they're not playing against anybody who's not right. If the other team isn't asleep, then you should be able to beat the Seahawks. If you are asleep, then they'll beat you, right? Same thing with the Rams, although they got a better quarterback. The Cardinals are directionless. The division should never be out of reach. Not with the current circumstances going on right now. The question is, what happens beyond that? I think whether we're Super Bowl competitors or not, we need to see more footage of Purdy playing under pressure with a line around him, but playing under pressure for stakes.
Yeah, the problem is that I think you and I both agree that they've got to do a bit of a retool here, right?
Yeah.
With some of these guys, and whether when you're looking at the teams this year, yeah, for sure. But I'm looking at the Rams, who oddly enough are I think the second youngest team in the NFL. Like that defense, you would assume is only going to improve. They've invested a lot over there through the draft, and it looks like they've hit, but they're still trying to figure it out and put it together. So it's like, well, they've hit there. They have hit in the trenches also on the offensive line. So as these players get older next year, you would assume that they're going to be better. Now, obviously, it comes down to Stafford's health is the biggest one, but they're a year ahead or 2 years ahead on their retool because they stripped it down 2 off seasons ago and then have built it up over the last couple of years and done a pretty good job to where the 49ers are in that position where they've got to strip it down a little bit and then build back up. Well, you're naturally 2 years behind, and that's assuming you hit in the way that they have. So yeah, I don't think the division's out of reach, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying I don't think next year it gets any easier. I think in fact it might get harder to win this division if some of these teams' talent does start to show through their young talent.
I don't know if it gets easier or harder. I think what matters is how willing is Kyle to play these young players and get them the reps that they need. Because the good news for our team is that we have the depth and we have the talent, right? Garendo, we found out, is an amazing ball catcher, right? When he's not struggling to get through the A gap or struggling to not, fumble the ball. But we learned that he has a lot more tools than we thought he did. He's gigantic. It runs a 4.5 or 4.7, whatever it is. So he can be a killer. He just needs culture. He needs leadership, and he needs mentorship, right? Those are things that he hasn't gotten yet. They haven't had the luxury of that because there's nobody healthy in the room right now, right? Pearsall, same thing. I'm a little bit more worried about him because he can get open, right? We've seen him get open these last couple of games, but before that, nothing. Now you can question the health for that. There's possibilities. There's options, right? The things I'm worried about are whether Kyle are going to let them see the field or he's going to put Ronnie Bell on the field for the 4th season in a row, right? Even when they dropped him, they immediately signed him back to the practice squad. My worry is for the culture of the management of this team because this team is not built based on merit or talent or fit for the job. It's based on seniority, right? It's not even just friends. It's just he hires who he's most comfortable with.
Well, that's a big conundrum because he's not going anywhere. So it's like, we've seen who he is for all these years. So it's like, that's not going to change most likely. He's not going to just wake up tomorrow and be like, aha moment. I need to do this. I think he is who he is at this point. And so I don't know, man.
That comes back to Brock too, right? Because he's going to have to start playing in spite of these deficiencies around himself and in spite of Kyle's play calling, right? You're almost playing against one another at that point. And that's only going to get worse once you have to decide how much you want to pay him. Do you want to go 45? Do you want to go 50? Do you want to go 55? The lower you go, the better it is for Kyle. The more you go, the more you take the power out of Kyle's hands, which I'm sure Brock likes, but probably Jed and the rest of them don't like it either. So it's complicated.
It is. It is very complicated. Trevor, good call. Appreciate you. You definitely took me on a roller coaster on that one, man. So
Didn't beat to. I'm in a roller coaster of water right now, so I'll let you have it.
well, good luck, man. Hopefully, you're not having to deal with any flooding or anything crazy.
Nothing yet. Although we did have some broken power lines and a big old branch that crashed onto my car and took out my rear windshield wiper. So that was fun. $500.
Nice. Well, it could have been a lot worse for sure. All right, Trevor, have a good
Yeah.
one, man. Stay
You got to
blessed.
break out the chainsaw. Take it easy, brother.
All right, man. Later. And that was fun. I'll tell you, when we had the hurricane, we had to break out the chainsaws. That was a lot. The reason I said he took me on a roller coaster is because like he started out with like, oh man, these Brock haters. I'm like, okay, like we're gonna debate, and then but he ended it with like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, pay him 45. I'm like, okay, well, like, yeah, then we agree. Ultimately, we agree. Now we come at it from two different sides, and we talk about it way different. The way we talk about it is different. But the ultimate thing is we pretty much agreed, like, all right, so he probably isn't worth $60 million, right? Like, come on. I don't know. All right, let me hit these supers real quick. Dave says, this guy's a joke because the market is high. Don't pay him. That's what I'm saying. But he didn't. But if you listen, it's like you had to hang on to the whole call. And then you got the payout at the end. It was really good. Dave says, then please get rid of him and draft. Yeah, but they're not going to. Daz says, I'm sure the Jags, Giants, Cowboys, and Dolphins regret their QB contracts given out. Just because the market is at a certain rate doesn't mean you have to pay it. This is also very true. This is also I'll give you a real life scenario here. I am in the market for a second rental house. But the market the way it is right now, I'm not investing now. I mean, that's the market. If I want to invest, there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to invest, right? You want a second rental, then go invest. This is what the market is. Tough shit. Well, not tough shit because I'm just not investing. I'll invest other ways. I'll diversify in other ways, but I'm not going to just invest in real estate because of where the market's at right now. So I have the choice. But if I decide to invest, then I don't have a choice. Like if I just say I'm going to invest, then I'm dealing with whatever the market says it is. If I'm going to say I'm paying Purdy, then I'm dealing with whatever the market says it is. But I don't have to invest in Brock Purdy. I don't have to invest in another rental house, right? The decision actually is not made for you unless you decide to push that way. No, brother, I'm 2 hours and 20 in. No. I appreciate you though, and I know you're fired up. I got it. Dave says 100 Daza, draft one and bring in a vet. Purdy strategies, dude. Daza says top QBs this year are around 3,500 yards and 30 plus TDs. Brock Purdy has 15 TDs and 9 interceptions. You cannot pay Brock Purdy more than elite quarterbacks. Look at the quarterback play in the Bills versus the Rams and the Bills versus the Lions. When has Brock Purdy ever played like that? I don't think he's had any 5 touchdown games, has he? Or approached 500 yards. I don't know that he's ever played like that. I don't know. He's had some good games, but I don't know that he's ever played like that. All right, y'all. Listen, I will be back tomorrow, 4-man front. I was trying to work out of behind enemy lines. I don't know that I'm going to be able to pull it off because I'm going to the Dominican Republic on Wednesday and we'll be gone through Christmas Eve. So 4-man front for sure tomorrow night. Make sure you tap into that with myself, Grant, Coach, and Ryan. And if I can pull off a behind enemy lines, I'll do it. But at this point, these games don't matter. The reason I wanted to do the 4-man front, behind enemy lines was because it was with my guy TD, and he is going through it with the the Dolphins fans right now about Tua. He's not a big Tua guy. A big chunk of that fan base is, and I thought his perspective would be really interesting on the Brock Purdy situation because he just went through something similar with Tua. So I thought it would be a good conversation. That being said, for sure, I'll be back tomorrow night. we'll see what we can do as far as behind enemy lines. Much love. Stay blessed. Peace.